Cling to us, baby. It's Statix on Amigos, everything Amiga. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about Statix.
Hell yeah, we are.
You know, what is it about television static and the paranormal? Why do you think those two things go together so well?
How timely, because
Yeah.
since we're so close to Halloween.
Yeah.
You know, listen, if you've ever seen the classic film Poltergeist, where Carol Ann gets up to the TV after it goes off, and she's listening to the static, and she's talking to something in the TV, that creeped everyone out. But static is sort of creepy in general, especially back in the day whenever we had the antennas. And so occasionally, like a stray signal would pass through the static. It'd get kind of weird, you know. You could see how someone could come up with that gimmick of Carol Ann in the movie from that. It's funny. I was just talking to Flock the other night on Conversations about him explaining to his kids that there was a time in America, at least, where TV stations would just sign off for the night. And they would they'd be off for like 6-7 hours or 8, and they come back on in the morning. I mean, did you remember that when you were a kid?
I remember. Well, no. When I was a kid,
knew you didn't.
Television stations didn't go off the air, but they did show paid programming, aka infomercials.
Yeah.
And and they would actually sign off before they did it, and completely disavowing themselves of whatever they were about to display. And so I remember
talking about the sham wow or the floaty or anything.
Exactly. So I remember waking up as a kid for Saturday morning cartoons, like super early, like 5 o'clock, and waiting around. And I still remember they would play like the national anthem at the beginning of the day and stuff. And they would say, "Welcome, it's our new day of programming," you know? So.
Yeah. That's something that's just sort of gone by the wayside. And it's funny, now you've got 18 million channels. When you were like when I was a kid, I remember I had 2, and then we got a better antenna, and then I had 3. And then eventually we could pick up PBS. We had four channels for a long time. Then we got cable, and now we've got 1 million channels. But when you had 4 channels and 3 of them were off the air, you were watching whatever's on channel 4. I can tell you that right now. So you would sit through anything. I've seen all the infomercials, all of them. When they were doing infomercials for the CDI, I saw that thing about 1 million times. Encyclopedia Britannica, 1 million times. All the ShamWow. So, I mean, in my head, I can still remember them because I saw them so much because that's all it was on. You had nothing else to watch. It was kind of a bummer.
Do you remember what channel you were most excited to get when you first got cable?
Boy. Yes, it was a USA Network, to be honest with you. It was because of wrestling. And also, they also had the midnight, they had, what was the name of it? Night Flight, I think it was like a video show, like an MTV, because we didn't have MTV. But so if you want to watch video, you watch Night Tracks on TBS or Night Flight on USA. I think it was Night Flight. And also, I like the overnight movies, you know, that they show on USA. And USA was, at that time, they were still showing like Kung Fu movies and stuff. So I was excited about that most of all.
Yeah. Were they affiliated with Turner, or were they a different thing?
Okay. No, they're still around, and they're owned by NBC, I believe.
I remember when we first got cable, I think that we had more channels than because we didn't have a box, we had our VCR. And the VCR was one of those that didn't have a digital display. It had a backlit panel of numbers that was like, it was like 2 through 13. And then there were a couple stars at the end, like asterisks.
Yeah.
And that was flipping through those. And I remember, you know, when I was a kid watching really early Nickelodeon. You were probably too old to be watching Nickelodeon even when it was new. But they used to show all kinds of weird crap, Canadian stuff, you know?
Yeah, I watched Nickelodeon because that's where I watched like Tomorrow People or You Can't Do That on Television. So I was still I was there early, you know, because they used to show stuff like Looney Tunes. Nickelodeon had a MTV style program that would come on. They show like music videos for like an hour. I remember
Mm.
sitting at the dinner table one time with Nickelodeon on, and it's the very first time I ever saw "Sweet Dreams" by the Eurythmics, and Annie Lennox was on the TV with that crew cut with the orange
Mhm.
hair, and like we were
Mhm.
all like, we stopped eating and just were stunned. It was so amazing. We couldn't believe that we were seeing a woman that looked like that, you know. So that times have changed a lot. I mean, my dad was like, "Holy moly!" He couldn't believe it, man.
Plus, that song kinda sounds like it's from the moon anyway, you know,
It
so
does. It does. It's a great song. I love Annie Lennox, but I mean, it just shows you that things have changed exponentially since those days.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Alright,
old,
Aaron,
everybody.
it's time to talk about Statix.
Oh boy, I've been waiting. Here we go. Oh man, if that doesn't get your heart pumping, nothing will, Bode.
Mhm.
Love theme from Statix. This thing does have some good tunes in it, Bode.
It does.
So Statix, Bode. That's IX spelled cool guy style. In case you're
Mhm.
wondering, released late in the game, Boatster, 1995. And we're gonna say released because I can't find if this ever actually got released into the wild and under and how it was released. It does have a listed publisher of Black Legend and the developer of Seventh Sign. The publisher did a zillion things. As I look over the list of stuff here that the publisher did, I don't think we've played anything that they've ever done. There's a lot of AGA stuff in here, Bode, so it'd be right up your alley.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I, you know, looking through their list, I think I've heard of Hyperion, um, Mega Motion, a couple, but
Haven't heard
Wheel
any of that
Spin.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Seventh Sign, this is all the only game Seventh Sign was responsible for. The concept and of this game was attributed to a fellow named Frank. I'm going to try this. Um, Hookredid,
Mm.
Hookredid,
Mhm.
which is not easy to say.
Mm-mm.
He also was involved in a few other aspects of the game, and it's a small. It was a small bunch of guys that worked on it, say four. The only one that has ever done anything before or since on the Amiga that's listed is the musician Joshan Feldkolter, who did a game called Bang Boo, the music for that. I
Sounds
did read,
explicit.
yeah, it's like you hook up with a ghost. Um,
Hey,
the
you
I,
know, didn't you go to a talk on that one time?
Oh man, don't even get me started. The someone on Lemon, one of these helpful Lemonites, listed that the mod for this game is available, and there was a link, and they said that the guy that made it it was the background music for the 1993 Dento interference demo by Sanity, if that means something to somebody. So apparently this is demo music they sort of like recycled, I guess is
I
what
am
I'm
not
saying.
surprised. After listening to this sounds exactly like what you'd hear when you're watching a demo.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to go on the assumption, Boatster, that you're like me, and this is one that you never stumbled upon during your Amiga travels
Nope,
before this week.
hadn't played this one before this week.
You got to give the game selection committee credit for really unearthing this one. Again, I don't know. I know I could not. I looked around to see if this was available to buy, and I can't find any box art anywhere. I can't find anyone that said they owned it. I know there was a demo released in a magazine. That's pretty much the extent of everything I know about it. It's ECS OCS. It does have 1 to 2 simultaneous players. And reviews I read in the magazines, this actually had a price attributed to it. So, and there were plenty of reviews. So I'm assuming it either was released or was planned to be released. The cost was going to be £9, 99p, the old
Mhm.
10 pound special boat for this one. Um, when you kick this thing up, it's got a very dimly open. What did you think when this thing honed into view, boat?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I started it, I was like, okay, here we go. This is another game made by a demo team because it starts. You've got an all black background, and you got some silvery, shiny text on there, and then you get there's a lot of, I don't know if you'd call this ray tracing or what kind of graphical style you have here, but you have there's a lot of kind of sort of Roman inspired columns and things. The
Yeah.
art is very striking at the beginning. And so this was definitely a game that I thought, as I fired it up, this was made by people in a from the demo scene.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you 100%. I know of course, that's going to be something not easy to uncover for the game sites, but I'm guessing these guys were part of some sort of demo team. And you're right, the opening of this, and also the cool guy logos are straight out of Demoopolis here. It's a
Hmm.
cool guy. I mean, I will say I did note that as it booted, it did tell me I had extended memory. I always like it when games tell me that with
Yeah,
little
yeah, it makes you
graphics.
feel good.
Well, I mean, I know now it seems kind of stupid, but I mean, there was a time where you're like, yeah, I paid for that. You got
Right.
that right, brother. I
Right.
did
And a lot
gimme.
of times, aside from that thing, you'd never know otherwise that the game
Well,
has affected extended
you'd know
memory.
when crap didn't load. You'd be like, oh yeah. So Static. Well, what is this wacky game, Boat? Uh, this is a 1 to 2 player puzzle game, and I will say, listen, I thought I'd seen it all, Boat, but this one is a pretty unusual puzzle game. We'll talk about the 1 player aspect of it first, but then we'll tip around because I actually did play some of the 2 player. Um, this game is split into levels. I believe there are 52 levels, Bode, and you are assigned a task before each level. Some of the tasks are quite simple. For example, use a certain amount of blocks. Okay, you don't have to even do any actual matching. Just do a certain amount of blocks. Sometimes you've got to you've got to clear 10 lines or 20 or 30. Sometimes you've got to hit diagonals. Sometimes you got to do other stuff. And the difficulty ramps up. So if you're thinking to yourself, this sounds a lot like like a Bejeweled or a Tetrisy type game. You're right. This game drops. You start on like a teeter totter, and at the top of the screen, shapes drop down. There are circles, triangles, dots, half circles, squares, stars, and skulls. I think I got all of them there, Bode. And your job depends on whatever the level is. But the way it works is if you match up 3 of these things in a row, it will clear. You can match them up and down, side to side, or diagonally. It will clear those shapes out of the line. There's also a wild card. The stars will come down, and you can use those as a wild card. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not. And then there are skulls that come down, which basically are just there to irritate you. I never got to the point where I could get rid of the skulls. I don't think you can. You
No,
just
I
stick
think they're just
around.
there as junk. Yeah.
So this stuff just drops out of the middle of the top of the screen. You could position it where you want, where it's going to drop along this teeter totter, because as it drops, there's a segmented line that comes down from the shape, and you put that segmented line where you want to drop it, and it's very precise. It's like laser sights for your
Hmm.
Tetris. It puts the shape where you want to go. Um, so far this sounds pretty pedestrian. Here's where it gets interesting. Again, I mentioned you're on a teeter totter, so this thing has a pivot point right in the middle of the screen. And as you put blocks on it, if you put blocks on either side of the pivot point, that side will get lower and the other side will get higher. So not only are you having to fulfill any sort of uh, mission statements that this game gives you on the levels, you've also got to make sure that the teeter totter doesn't tilt all the way to where one side or the other hits the ground. If that happens, you're done, no matter how far along you've gotten. The other problem, so I came up with a strategy for this. I thought, hey, I'll just dump all this crap in the middle of the screen. That'll show. Well, they thought of that. The pivot point you've got is like a long. It's almost like a candle with like a green stripe, diagonal stripe going at 3 of them. Every time, if you put too much stuff in the middle of this thing, it will actually smush down a level. Like the whole teeter totter will drop down because you're actually smashing the pivot point into the ground. So you could actually lose by just having too much stuff in the middle of the screen and smashing it down. So that prevents you from putting everything in the easy areas of the screen. It wants you to move around, place stuff around. Boat, what did you think of this? What I would consider a fairly unique slant on an old favorite here in terms of the puzzliness of this.
Yeah, I think that this is By 1995, the world had seen its share of, dropping item puzzles. You had
Yeah.
your Tetris, your Hatris, your Weltris, your Wordtris. And,
You
what
reminded me of something I'd forgotten about. I'd
oh,
forgotten
yeah.
about some of that.
And so, you think to yourself, if you're designing a new puzzle game, what do I do to shake things up? Okay. And so obviously the only thing that differentiates this game from all of those other games is the fact that you're playing this game on a teeter totter, on a seesaw. And so, is this the most revolutionary concept the puzzle gaming world has ever seen? No. But it does make you think about things other than just matching three. So you do have to constantly be, and it's not just like adding weight to one side either, because what you'll do inevitably is you're trying to add weight to one side of the teeter totter is that you will inadvertently sometimes match three in a direction that you didn't ordinarily suppose, and that will erase three blocks, and that will make your situation even more dire. So
Yeah.
there's an element of strategy and also sort of risk mitigation, and that is you're loading up both sides of the teeter totter in order to keep the sides level. You don't want to inadvertently set yourself up to set off a chain that will cause you to lose instantly.
Yeah. Before we get into our particular thoughts on the actual gameplay, let's take a step back and talk about the presentation of this game. We mentioned the opening; it looked very demo-like. So, if you were to the uninformed, one might expect an incredible feast for the eyes and ears, Bode, when a game like this. Because one thing about puzzle games, like you've got some extra jack there since you're not using a lot of stuff for gameplay. You can often really make these look quite nice. With pictures in the background or really awesome tunes or whatever. This thing does have some good songs, as we mentioned, but the presentation is a little lacking. What on your normal play screen, what you're looking at is basically two pillars with the teeter totter in between the two pillars. That takes up the whole screen horizontally. At the bottom of the screen, there's sort of like this faux granite block that has the upcoming squares and your score and how many lines or how much you got left to fulfill your obligation for that level. And then at the top, you've got a line that's sort of a timer line that tells you how long you have to drop the piece before it just drops automatically. That's pretty much it, Boat. The rest of the screen's literally white, and everything else is gray. What did you think about what I would consider a sparse gameplay screen here, Boat?
The one of the things that makes puzzle games unique is their presentation. Um, take an example like Puzzle Fighter, where
Yeah,
you have a
that's
drop
exactly what I was
three
thinking of.
puzzle, but
Yeah.
then you've got your two Street Fighter characters, and they're cheering you on. They're doing flips. They're doing special moves as the game plays. Take a game like Pang. Pang, not really a puzzle game, but a game that we're essentially doing the same thing over and over again. You're shooting a ball as it bounces down from the screen. You've got all of these different locations that you're going to around the world. Okay. Dr. Mario. The background doesn't change in Dr. Mario, but you've got the little guys under the microscope that are dancing around, the bugs. You've got an animated Dr. Mario who is tossing the pills into the bottle.
Yeah.
This game is probably the most bare bones, stripped back puzzle game that I've played, unless you're counting like the original versions of Tetris that came out on the PC or whatever, where there
Even
was
those had
literally
color.
nothing. Yeah, yeah. And so, well, not I guess I was playing on a black and white monitor at the time, so you're probably right. But
You
yeah,
old.
this is it boggles the mind why they had so many things kind of put in place. They had good tunes, they had a good concept. Like you said, I think that the idea of mushing down the center candle, the center of the teeter totter, that's a great way to mitigate that strategy of just piling everything in the center. Um, all they need to do to really make this an attractive, sellable game is spice up the gameplay area a little bit. Either give us some interesting backgrounds, give us an overworld map where we're going to different destinations to complete these goals. I mean, what they do have in between levels is they have some static shots that do look nice, but whatever you're being asked to do doesn't correlate anything with what's going on in the screens. Like you've got a close up of somebody's eye, looks freaky. You've got the Eiffel Tower. You've got what appears to be like a dingy alley. So it's again, it's like somebody had these images that they were wanting to use in a demo, and they were just kind of left on the cutting room floor. So it's like, yeah, let's just throw them in there, you know. So this is just, it's a total missed opportunity, and the game is bland to the point of being unattractive. I mean, you look at this thing and it just kind of looks like butt.
It's funny. I was reading some reviews on Limited. One guy lamented that like this looked like a game on the Game Boy, the original one.
Yeah, yeah.
It does. This is a game, and this is a rarity, I think, Bode. I've seen games that like the guys just didn't do anything, or the guys did like it was in a hurry or whatever. But I mean, this game, it looks like it's proactively trying to look horrible. It's
Mhm.
like they went because I mean, even the shapes are. It's like they saw the C64 and said, "Hold my beer" on these shapes. It's just different shades of brown.
Yeah.
Brown everywhere. Brown blocks with shapes in them. By the way, there's no excuse for not coloring those with something. It
Right.
doesn't even matter. The Amiga is capable of putting colored blocks on the
Colored
screen, right?
blocks, something we could do by 1995.
You've got this huge open area. I mean, it's a huge area. It's the whole screen. It's begging for you to put a cool picture, an animation, anything like a bomb jack. Look at something back there that looks cool. Like you said, tour the world or anything. It's just they not only did they not put anything, but they not only did they have they actually removed color. It's the absence of color is the background. I mean, it literally sucks. Play this game for a while, and I will get to the gameplay, but I mean, if I felt like that I was actually just like getting sucked, my soul was being sucked out of me. Like this is colorless. This is colorless and flavorless, and it's a huge miss. Like you said, the game music is fine. As I told Bo, because we both are like, we were under the impression this is a PD game, and who knows? But I mean, this looks sub PD. I mean, in terms of the look of it.
We've
And the
played
thing
tons of
is,
PD games that look way
oh
better.
God. And what gets me is like the pillars look good, the faux marble base looks okay, the pivot point looks okay. Even the blocks, I mean, when they shift and stuff, they actually change. But I mean, the rest of it is a disaster. It's a disaster. Now, if the fellows that did this game are listening, for example, we love you, by the way. Please don't kill us. But I would love to know if there was some reason. Did they just get bored? Did they run out of time? Like, what was the reason? Because I can't fathom why someone would release just. And the thing is, if you put like, here's the thing that I think, Bo. You want to hear my theory?
Mhm.
So you've got these ugly brown blocks on this white background, right? I think they were going to put something colorful in the background, and they wanted to have some bland, easy to spot blocks in front of it, and they
Mhm.
just never put anything in the background. That's my guess.
I think
You
you're
know?
dead on. I think you're dead on. I think what happened was they created this game and they're like, okay, this is what we're going to send out for, previews and magazines, things like that. Get the word out. Maybe include this on a demo disc or something like that. And
Yeah.
then we're going to finish this bad boy up, and in its final form, it's going to be a cornucopia of color and sound and everything.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, let's be honest. 1995, the Amiga was dead. It was dead as a doornail. And so, I mean, if you were in the Amiga scene for profit at that point, it's like, man, it's time to leave the Amiga scene and go to a scene that I can actually make some money. So
It's funny you should mention that, and I'll get to the reviews in a minute, but I was baffled until I thought about it and how many people reviewed this game. Because I thought to myself, if I reviewed this, like I would have to bury it, even though there are fun elements that you're going to get to. But I mean, I can't believe this would be released professionally in the state that it's in. Now, with
it
all
is
that
crazy.
said,
Yeah.
let's talk about the gameplay itself. I'll start. I'm not the biggest puzzle guy, as you know, Bode. And I'll admit, when I sat down with this, I picked like the endless runner type version at first, and so like there were no levels; it just kept going and going. And I was like, "What am I doing wrong? I suck." I didn't realize that when you pick an option, you can pick just like a I don't know, like a practice or whatever. Then you
Yeah,
can
it's
pick
like the
like the
practice.
levels.
They call it like training or something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, don't play that because it's not actually it's not even good training
Yeah.
because all you're doing is clearing squares and that's the game is way different than that. So then you go to the levels. This has passworded levels. Like I said, I think there's 52 levels, and so after you beat one, they give you the password. You can go back to it whenever you want. Um, I have to say that despite the look of this game, which is, again, it's horrible. This is a pretty clever game. Like something tells me that the guy that made this has a pretty big brain because I never would have thought about this. This is your classic, match three game. We've seen a million of these, but this one makes you think in a way that is unusual. Both sort of touched on it earlier. When you're weighing down one side of this thing, you would think to yourself, I want to put a bunch of stuff on the other side to even it out. And you do, except for the fact that when you put a bunch of stuff on the other side, you may start matching stuff, which makes it worse.
Hmm.
So it really puts your brain in a different mode. And I'm not going to lie to you, this game does have a one more go sort of aspect to it that I enjoy. Like I play this a lot this week. I would put it on like I'd put on a TV show or something, and then just play it while I was watching TV or listening to it, and it worked for me. I actually enjoyed it despite the shortcomings that we talked about. It's very clever. There is some sameness to it. I'm not saying I got super far into the game, but I got into the teens level wise, and but I mean, it's a lot of more of the same. That was my problem with it. And of course, since there's no ability to change look of the stage, like Vote said, you get a little picture, after you so often. But I mean, if they'd had something in the background to tell you that you'd moved to a different stage, that would have at least gave you. It's like getting a little
Yeah.
reward.
What
Vote.
you need is a better sense of progression.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, say go ahead, but what are your thoughts on
and
this thing?
And I mean, if you play like what I consider to be like one of the best puzzle games ever, falling block puzzle games ever, are the console versions of Tetris because uh, they have whenever you complete or whenever you die, basically on whatever level you're playing, you'll get a little cutscene like on the Game Boy Color version, which is my personal favorite version of Tetris. But this is found on other versions. Depending on your score, there'll be a launch pad, okay, and like if you score sort of bad, there'll be like a little firework that goes off that's launched off the launch pad. Then if you do a little bit better, it's like a champagne bottle will explode. And then if you
Yeah.
do really awesome, then a space shuttle will roll up to the pad and roll off. Like that's the sort of thing that's like, man, I want to try it again because I want to see what the next little cutscene is when I get to the next, the next set of scores or whatever. If you had that, or if you had, like I said, some sort of overworld map or some sort of progression where maybe you're playing against a computerized opponent. Again, 1995, this stuff was out there.
Yeah.
If you play something like Kirby's Avalanche for the Super Nintendo, which is also known as Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on the Genesis, aka Puyo Puyo in its original form, you're always playing against a computerized opponent, and that will drive you forward because the opponents get more difficult. You level up your skills, and it gives you a reason to keep playing. And that's the biggest fault of this game is that it's a great concept. They could have done better to make it more visually exciting, and they could have done better to give you reasons to keep playing the game.
Excellently said, Boat. Even the arcade version of Tetris had the guy dance and the cool music whenever you finished the
Hmm.
level, and he'd be tapping his toe when you were taking too long. I mean, even that was motivational. Your dad, I agree with you there. This is one of those games that you. And by the way, a two person or a computer player and two player would be great because I'm going to talk about two player here in a second. But to sum up on the one player aspect of it. This game would be a prime example if someone could get the source, something like that, and make this is a game that was close. Like you could make some cosmetic changes to this. If you've got 52 levels, I'm not saying you have to have 52 different tunes, but maybe get 7 or 8 different tunes to stick in there. Have some different backgrounds. That would go a long way. We should talk about the two-player version. This does have a two-player simultaneous version, which is also clever-ish. In the two-player version, there are two block droppers, and you and your opponent each control one side of the teeter-totter, and your goal is to basically screw your opponent. But the funny thing is, you sort of have to work together at times. I can't comment on this too much because I only played it with the kid, and we were both sort of wondering what the heck was going on with it. I do like the idea of a two-player element in this. I think there could be some fun to be had with it. Did you have a look at that at
No,
all,
so
Bo?
how does that work? Like when you how does the scoring work?
I don't know. I didn't pay attention to the scoring. I think it's just you keep matching, and as you match stuff, your side will go up higher, and your opponent's side will go down lower.
I
You
see. I
see,
see. Okay.
you know,
Okay.
but of course, you've got to get the right shapes and stuff too. It's a weird. I like the concept of it. Like I said, this is a high concept Tetris knockoff, or match three knockoff. There's a lot going for it. I'm surprised we haven't seen this ripped off, if I'm
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Because I could easily see, and I don't think the people over at, the seventh side are going to come after you. Of course, they might, but this one might be ripe for the plucking. Of course, this is a game. This is the kind of game I think you could put it on any computer. I mean, for the most part, certainly you could do better with the graphics. It's funny as aside from making you do different matches when you advance or do diagonals, or sometimes you have to do combos with the wild cards. It also occasionally will increase the sensitivity of the teeter totter, which that's also maddening when that happens. I mean, there's a lot that you can do, but I mean, I would love to see this concept and someone, a real big thinker, come up with different things that you could do with the concept. Like maybe have a teeter-totter above this one that you could also work into it. You know what I'm saying? Like double teeter-totter, just to spice it up a little bit. Or maybe have like something really big that comes down where you have to focus everything on one side. Really mix it up a little bit. But from what I saw, they mixed it up okay. But I mean, I think you're probably going to get kind of bored with it after a while. Did we get any Discord action on this thing, Boatster?
We did. We did. We got one review from Pajako6502. He says, "This is a tough one. I gave this a good crack and ultimately ended turning it off because it was a little tedious after a while. The concept is there, but the developers failed to really do anything with it. I got no real sense of satisfaction from building up lines of symbols, and while the game got more difficult, what that actually meant was much longer times per level, just plonking things on the left and the right. You get quite a good look at what's coming up, so it's relatively easy to plan where to put your blocks. There seemed to be no reward for doing anything fancy like diagonals or rows of 5. I think the sound on my version was a little jacked up because it ended up sounding like adult movie jazz fusion, but it was pretty good in the videos I watched. Graphically, it is quite nice, but too much white and brown makes the whole thing dull to look at. Not terrible, but also not fantastic. Just lacking that touch of magic to make it sticky. 5 out of 10.
I agree with most of what he said. I will say, when I played two-player one time, it glitched out. Like
Mm.
the drop area glitched out on me. So I mean, again, it is what it is. I did look the reviews up. Of course, the people in Lemon gave this a straight up 6, brother. They weren't screwing around. This actually reviewed pretty well. The mags, a lot of mags. CU Amiga gave it. Keep in mind, this is in '95, so they listen to all these magazines, by the way, that looked at this game. Okay, CU Amiga gave it 87. CVG gave it 85. Amiga Games 78, Amiga Dream 77, Amiga Power 75, Playtime 64, bringing up the rear. Everyone's favorite, Amiga Joker. They weren't having this crap, Bode. 58%. Your average magazine rating 72. I'll be honest with you. There's no way I would give this thing anything above a 73 or 4. You just can't
Yeah.
because of the look of it. I
Yeah.
mean, the concept, I give the concept an A, but I give the
I
game
mean,
overall
I
a
am
lower
not
grade.
I'm not what you call a big graphics guy.
Oh, come on, Boat.
I can forgive a lot and I can make the mind's eye do a lot. But
Yeah.
this is like it was ugly on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I agree with that exactly. You may be stunned to learn that no, I did not find any of these on eBay. By the way, if you are someone who comes across this sometime in the future and you have owned this game or do own it in the boxed form or purchased it, please drop me a note in the comments. I'd love to hear what format you got it in, Boat. But overall, I'd say this is the old. It's like you've heard the old saying, you can't put lipstick on a pig. They took a beautiful woman and then whitewashed her. Is what they did with this one. They just, they literally made her look like a non-existent person. It's reverse stupidity in a grand scale, Boat.
Are you a sketchy tech? Do you have the right tools for the job? Have there been incidents? Next time, don't try to fix it yourself. Send your broken Amiga to Retro Rewind. Get a full diagnostic, a reasonable estimate, and the peace of mind knowing that your machine is in the hands of real technicians with decades of experience and cutting-edge repair equipment. Save 10% off your repair with the promo code Amigos10. Thank you to RetroRewind.ca for supporting this episode.
Amiga News.
Yeah.
You know, Aaron, it's been another week of Amiga news. It's
Yeah, man.
Neil over at Indie Retro News. I feel like nobody gives him the credit that he deserves. He is always keeping up with what's new and happening. And we've got 2 games that he reported on this week. First one is Rogue D-Clan or Declan. I'm not really sure what that means. But this is a big Nivrig game, and Nivrig being one of the big developers that I think originally this was submitted to the Game Jam. Aaron, did you take a look at this as part of your big Game Jam?
I think I did play this one, Boat, and I think I did like this one, Boat. It's good. It's good.
It says that there's been over 100 changes since the Jam version.
Holy smokes!
Improved game music and effects. You can choose to face only dragons, snakes, or tanks. So yeah, this is a rogue shooter, kind of like Binding of Isaac, it looks like. So if you're a fan of this, you can check out the latest build over at the Rogue D-Clan website over at itch.io.
Yeah, I as I recall, this was quite a good one. You know, there's Game Jam games. I don't think there was there. I don't. In fact, I know there was a bad one in a bunch. There was one that wasn't like quite playable, you know, fully. But like these are gold. You'd love this one, Boat. By the way, it's
It
right
looks
up your
like
alley.
it looks like my style of game. And according to Mitsuyama in the chat, this one actually won the Game Jam. So
yeah,
way to go!
Listen. These game jams keep them coming. Game jam it up, brother. I love it. I think this is a winner. This one we got to have a look at sometime, Boat. I'll put that one on the list, man.
Now, Aaron, our next story. This is a game that's near and dear to your heart. Bagman, Aaron, is coming to the Commodore Amiga.
Oh yes, I'm a big, huge, ultra fan of Bagman, Boat. Now, the Amiga did get Baggett Man, I believe, which is the C64 one that somebody brought up, the knockoff. But I'm excited. You know, this game, I believe this is from a French developer, arcade game, if I'm not mistaken, Boat. This one here, like, a lot of people aren't down with the bag, but this is my bag, man, if you know what I mean. I've been waiting years to use that one. This is a game where you play a thief, so I'm already on board, and you try to go around and get the bags, the big money symbol on it. You got to collect them onto your wheelbarrow without the prison guards getting you. The good thing about this thief is he's fresh out of the joint because he's wearing the prison pajamas, the old striped PJs. You got multiple prison guards. Of course, you're underground. I don't know the backstory on what's going on here, why there's money bags in the mines, or how this guy got out of jail. Who knows? It's a video game, doesn't matter. But you can get into mine cars to avoid the cops. Climb up and down ladders. I will say, as much as I love this game, I've never defeated the level, not one time, and I've tried hundreds of times. It's an incredibly difficult game. I'd like to see someone that was better at it than me give it a shot. But it looks, what we're looking at here is the Amiga version, brother. This sucker's good to go.
Aaron, as somebody that spends a lot of time in prisons, have they retired the striped pajamas more or less?
Oh God, no. Well, I mean, it depends. Sometimes you get the PJs. Sometimes you get the old like pink. Yeah, I see pink, a pink suit, jumpsuit, or whatever. And it's fluorescent pink, by the way. Hot, it's super hot pink. And then you also see the kind of green ones. Sometimes, a lot of times though, when you're in the joint, I've noticed like people will like augment them by just like either way, like they have an undershirt, they just take the top part off. You know, you don't see the classic black and white stripe gimmick too much,
like the Jailhouse Rock Elvis music video type thing, right?
That's right. If I was going to be in the joint, All right. I would want the black and white ones plus the little hat.
Yeah.
Because that's key. You know, the flat, round
Yep.
hat.
Yep.
I mean, that's, you got to have, what's that hat called, Boat?
That's your classic prison garb.
That's the, that's, yeah, you got to have it. So, but yeah, Boat, have you played Baggett Man with
Oh
Baggett
yeah,
Man before?
I love Baggett Man. You know, it's a lot like Donkey Kong.
What? It is? Everything was
well,
like Donkey Kong
he
just
did
came
that.
out.
Yeah, that's it's not anything like Donkey Kong, but I'm sure somebody did say that.
I'm looking here. Is this going to be do we know, I'm assuming this is going to be a freebie, right? Do we know who's
Yeah,
doing this?
you can play this right now. This is available at Jot D666. This is a name your own price deal.
It's a transcode, Boat. No wonder it's so perfect.
This thing is it got started in 2010, so it's been a long work in progress. But it looks like that this is we're entering the final phases here. So you can play this. It says probably not working on a plain 68,000 yet, but maybe soon in the future.
Beautiful. That's outstanding. Congratulations, Bill. Thanks to JOTD did this. Excellent work. That's an excellent port to bring over. I'm very excited about that, Boat.
All right, Aaron, next big news. Last week, guess what? It was AmiWest, the United States' biggest Amiga-centric event.
Well, I mean, I don't know how we missed this, Bo.
Well, look at that thumbnail. Look at that thumbnail. Okay.
Well, I didn't see the thumbnail, but yeah.
Well, this is the, I mean, this go ahead, man. Tell us about it.
This is an event that
Sorry.
This is the setup, Bo. This is the setup. This is the event that the boys at Pixel Gaiden Pixel Gaiden go to sometimes, and also Doug.
Yeah, he drives like 27 hours to get there.
But I don't know. We're looking at I don't know who did this video here, but we're getting a tour. There's a tour video up, and you know, I like AmiWest. The AmiWest people have always been nice to us, even though we humiliated ourselves in a promo a few years ago. We sent them one.
This is TJ Ferreria. This is his video. It looks, to be honest with you, Aaron, it looks like there's more non-Amiga computers here than Amigas.
Oh, there's a goodly amount of stuff there. Looks like they get a pretty decent crowd. Look, there's a lot of machines there.
Yeah, there's Spectrums. Let's see, Commodore +4 I'm seeing here.
A Amiga, you know, so that's, I mean, I don't think it was there yet. It's funny, though, because I don't remember hearing about this from Doug or the Pixel Gaiden guy, so I'm guessing that, I'm surely Doug would have mentioned if he'd went.
Maybe this is another thing. Remember last year where they had the special guest speaker where you weren't even allowed to talk about him being at the banquet? It was probably another one of those things.
I don't know, man. All I know is a couple years ago, like during the pandemic, AmiWest, I think, was like one of the few cons that actually got together. And of course, they didn't draw a lot of people back then because it was a pandemic, but they kept the ball rolling. And this is, of all the times I've seen footage from AmiWest, this is by far the best, coolest looking footage. They got a lot of stuff there. They got some folks there. And look how nice. They've got the curtains. Look at these signs.
It's interesting the way that they hang the curtains. What do you think if they did something like that at Cocoa Fest? Do you think they should hang up curtains?
Well, no. I don't think that would be a good idea. But for this, it's perfect. I mean, they're dividers. I guess so, because like behind the curtain, you're going to see the hiney of the guy, you know, on the other side. That's why they put the curtains there. It's to keep you from to see the guy's back end. That's my guess. Maybe oh, look at that guy. He's got a BC Quest for Tires t-shirt. This guy's awesome. You know, so I'm down with that. So yeah, this looks like a good event. I apologize. Oh, look there. Maybe Doug was here because that's Doug's logo. And so let's see if Doug's
Doug's there. Doug wouldn't miss AmiWest. Yeah.
But I'm sorry that we didn't pitch this thing. I had no idea it was happening.
Me neither.
So that's a bummer, man. But you know, but c'est la vie. It still looks like it was a good time, and I'll look into this a little bit more and just try to maybe hit the high points next time with who spoke there and whatnot. But yeah, I'm glad there's the Doug right there. Look how happy Doug is. He's always smiling.
Always happy. Yeah.
So yeah, it looks good, Bo. I'm glad you found this, and I hope it went real well for everybody.
Now, Aaron, our final news story is not about the Amiga. It's about the Agon Console 8. Tell us about this, Aaron.
Well, this is Neil over at RMC Cave. He's pitching a new gimmick here. Now, apparently these Agons have been around for a while, but what this is it's a tiny little single board 8-bit like fantasy computer. I guess would be the best way to put it. Boat.
Mhm.
It's got it's got a I think it's a Z80 processor in it. And what the concept behind this is sort of like the 8-bit computer that people sort of dreamed of having with back in the day. It comes with BBC Micro Basic, which apparently is a really top shelf basic. It even has you could actually mix in assembly in the basic, which I think is not very usual. And this is something they're going to make there, and they're so I mean this is a computer that doesn't exist effectively. It's sort of like you know what's that shtick that the 8-bit guys pitching the Mega 65 and
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
the 8-bit guys one is. I don't remember what his is called, but so it's like a fan or like a Pico 8, except this is a
Mhm.
hard piece of hardware. And so the premise of this is you would Commander X16. Thank you, Super Tech Boy. That's the one that 8-bit guy's pitching. There's a couple of these that have come around. They're like fantasy machines mode. It's a fantasy, and the gimmick is they're going to build these communities. They're going to make software for these, and this one, like I said, it comes right up into basic. I mean, this sucker's basic. You can get a little case for it. It's got Atari joystick ports on it. It's cheap too. It's like I think it's like $75 or something.
Oh,
So
so the price is right.
it's a cheap date on boat. If you're a programmer, they do demo a few. Of course, there's not a ton of stuff out for it yet. The reason I brought it up, though, well, I thought maybe people in our audience might be into it, you know. But I was pondering this week, and I was sort of talking to you about this before the show started, which is like, and they mentioned this in the show, like, who are these for? You know, for the life of me, these things are popping up left and right, and I've never understood who they're for, and I still don't, even after watching this video. I mean, there are tons and tons of classic machines out there with active communities that you could program for, including this is the BBC Micro Basic. Why not just program on a BBC Micro? You know, and they mention in here, well, this comes up to basic, and you don't have to go through a bunch of loading screens. You don't have your browser distracting you in the background if you're fooling around on Windows or whatever. And that's all well and good. I guess if you're a hardcore programmer, these might be for you. But for your average slub, like me and you, yeah, I don't understand why these are in vogue right now, considering the amount of old systems that are
Well,
out there.
I think you raised some good issues, but this is a counterpoint. There's a couple things that this has going for it. One is the price. You're not going to buy a BBC Micro for $75.
I'll
It's
give
just
you
not gonna
that.
happen,
That is the
okay?
one saving grace of this. Yeah.
And two, this thing has common video output that is high res, so it has VGA out. Okay, now I'm sure it's possible to get high res output out of a BBC Micro, but you're going to be spending more money on dongles, and you know the shadiness of the dongle. Or if you want to get into the tank or whatever, let me tell you what I don't want to get into, and that's the tank. So if you are sort of into computers, retro computers, kind of like the guys in the Coco scene are, where they see it as a hobbyist device for coding more than just
Yeah.
something they sit around and play games on. This seems like a way for you to get into that scene, become part of a small community of dedicated people who are interested in making cool stuff for this stuff. And it's not one of those boutique machines like the Mega 65 that people are going to snap up and buy for investment purposes. This is a machine that's built cheaply, that you can put together cheaply, and be part of a community to create stuff with that kind of gives you that same sort of thrill as programming on a vintage computer.
Well, I think you raised some good points, and I will say they mentioned in there the possibility of using this for like educational purposes. I could sort of see.
I
that.
don't buy that. There's no way that any school district would buy something like this.
Well, maybe in the UK they
they
might. I don't know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Okay, I hate that. I'm going to beat the dead horse again. Okay, and I will say you're right. The price on this makes this more attractive, right? But you can go out. And the thing is, and I can say this with this product in mind because anyone that would buy this would be in the know. Okay, you can go out and get a Pi Zero or something, and literally do this exact same thing with any number of machines.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anytime you want. Now you're right. There's a community or whatever, but I mean, You know what I'd like to see? Like me and Brent, for example, we just covered the computer on the show last week, right? The computer Lynx was a pretty good computer. Like it only sold 30,000, but the emulator's good. It's good to go. It's got a semi-working version that you can put in the Mister. Like, why can't we get Rally behind something like this? How about fooling with that? It's no one ever tapped the potential of the computer. Or what about the Pico 8 has a huge following? People like that. Like, I mean, there's so many things to choose from. This is the key for me. There are so many things you can choose from to kind of scratch this itch. And I guess maybe if I was a programmer, maybe I would get it better, you know. But to me, you know, another little device that you hook up to your TV to fiddle with. I mean, it seems like you could do it without it, I guess. But I mean, you're right. This is for somebody that's not us. But still, I will say it's a flashy campaign. You know, Neil is an excellent salesperson, as you know, and he's got a crack staff here, and there is probably a market for this. It's not me. So if that's your cup of tea, check it out. The Agon. It's an attractive little unit if you get the box for it. Probably be a good time if that's your cup of tea. I'll stick to the dumb guy stuff, Boat. That's all I got on that, Boat.
All right, man. Well, you know, we were just talking about the show ARG last week. What did you guys did the computer by Lynx?
Yeah, we did the computer by Lynx. This is a computer that sold 30,000 units. It was late. It was tardy to the party during the big UK uprising, if you know what I mean. It had all the jack, but they were late shipping it, and you know how that goes. So it sold 30,000 units worldwide. We played Old Mummy and Floyd's Bank.
Are you sure it's not Old Zombie?
Nope, it's Old. Clearly, you heard the show where Britt said that hundreds of times. But we had a good time on there, Bode. I also want to mention that, you know, we did Neon Noir last week, but we both really liked that game. Talk about the total difference in graphical output between
you
last
couldn't get
week and
two
this
graphically
week.
different games between the 2 weeks, for sure.
Yeah. So, of all people, the guy behind it watched the show, and he left a note in here. He said, I caught the VOD on Twitch, and it made my day. I'm so glad you enjoyed Neon Noir. Your kind words feed my desire to make a sequel.
I love it,
If we have any part in getting Steam Night to crank out a sequel, then I feel like we've justified the show's existence in one fell swoop, Boat. I was happy with that.
And finally,
I think
Aaron,
that's all we got.
That's all we got. Well, what do we got coming up next week on Amigos?
Oh, man. Well, there's only one way to find out, Boat. Oh, man. Look at that. Subwar 2050.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome, Boat. 2050. I like a good submarine game, and if it's a futuristic sub, you know it's gold.
Look at that sub. It's got a freaking beak. Okay? And it's got teeth. I mean, it's got it all.
It'll bite you or peck you. There's nothing worse than getting pecked to death by a futuristic sub.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up things on Amigos this week. We always thank you for listening and or watching. And if you'd like to support the show, patreon.com/Amigos podcast is your home to do that. If you support the show, you can leave us a review for us to read on the air of the games. Plus, you get to join the Amigos community, which is, without a doubt, the friendliest group of retro computer enthusiasts on the internet. Guys, we will see you next week. And until then, adios.
Adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.